Lesson 77, VLOOKUP. VLOOKUP, I think, is the most useful function in Excel. It's the one function that we use more often than anything else. It used to be when I would hire a financial analyst, the one requirement that we would put on the job posting board was can do VLOOKUPs in his or her sleep. We'll take a look at why VLOOKUP can fail and how to use trim, column, index, and match to enhance VLOOKUP, and also the other version of VLOOKUP that's good for looking up ranges. Okay, so here on the left I have a data set. It came from our IT department. It's exactly what I asked for. I said, hey, I need item, invoice, date, and quantity, and that's exactly what they gave me. Unfortunately, I really meant to say item and item description. I don't have all of our SKUs memorized, and so when I see these SKUs, I don't know what it is. I need to figure out what the item description is. Luckily for me, somewhere on my computer I had this nice little database over here that maps SKU to description. So I copied it into the same worksheet so we can see how this works. Now the V in VLOOKUP stands for vertical. It means that our table is oriented in a vertical direction. So equal VLOOKUP, go find this value, BG33-8. That's the lookup value. The table has to have SKU as the first item in the table. So I'll select this range. I'll press the F4 key to make that range absolute. And then which column do I want? Well, they number them in Excel. This is column 1 and this is column 2. So I want the second column. And finally, I have to put the word false. False means that we want an exact match. A close match doesn't work in this case, so we want an exact match. I'll copy the formula down. And you see that very quickly we get descriptions for all of our items, except for one. BG33-9, that NA means that it's not found in the table. Either it's a brand new item or it's a typo. Let's say we discover it's a brand new item. I'm going to not copy this, but I'm going to cut with Control X and then paste, which will automatically expand the reference in the original formula, BG33-9, and I'll figure out what the new item is. And you see that now the NA works. So VLOOKUP is very handy. Anytime you need to basically go grab a sales rep name from a sales rep or a customer name from a customer number or something like that. Now I'm going to go on to the next worksheet, and here we have the exact same data and the exact same formula, but I'm getting NAs throughout. Well, what's going on here? I even highlighted BG33-8 in both tables. It's clear I can see that they're there. Why can't Excel see that they're there? I'm going to go to this cell. I'm going to press the F2 key, and you'll see the flashing insertion point right after the 8. I'm going to come back to this cell and press the F2 key, and here you'll see that the flashing insertion point is a few characters after the 8. This data must have come from a COBOL system where they used a fixed length field. That says that the item number is going to always have 10 or 12 characters, and if there aren't 10 or 12 characters, they pad it on the right-hand side with spaces. Well, a fast way to get rid of all those spaces is to use the trim function. Trim. So instead of A36, I'll look up the trim of A36. Sure enough, that works. Trim takes off leading and trailing spaces, and now everything works except for my one new item. Let me go on to another problem. Now here, exact same thing. We're getting NAs throughout. This time, there's no trailing space after BG33-8, but it's my lookup table that has the trailing spaces. Well, this is a little bit more difficult because I'm going to have to somehow replace all those spaces. So I'm going to come to a new column, equal trim, take the trim of the SKU, and copy that formula down. And now I'll copy, and right here I'll paste values. All of a sudden, my VLOOKUPs begin to work again. I can now get rid of these temporary formulas. Again, a use of trim to get rid of leading and trailing spaces. How about if you have to do VLOOKUPs for many columns? Well, I was very careful when I wrote this formula to make sure that the lookup table had $signs throughout, and even the lookup value had a $sign before the A, so that way I would be able to copy this to the right. The problem I'm going to have, though, is this 2 is hard-coded. And when I copy that to the right, it's still going to point to column 2. So I'd have to go through and edit my formula to point to column 3, and then 4, and then 5. Well, a quick workaround is to replace the 2 with a function called column. I want the column of B1. Why am I asking for B1? Because B is the second column. The column of B1 is a very geeky way to put the number of 2 in there. But the advantage is, as I copy that to the right, it changes to be the column of C1, and then the column of D1, and the column of E1. A great way to put the numbers 2, 3, 4, and 5 as I copy the formula across. Now, so far, all the VLOOKUPs that we've done are using comma false at the end, asking for an exact match. And when we ask for an exact match, the table itself does not have to be sorted in any manner. Let's take a look at an example where we want to do the inexact match, the approximate match. The trick here is that the table has to be sorted in ascending sequence, from lowest to highest. So my typical example is we want to apply letter grades in a classroom. I take the school grading scale and I have to reverse it from lowest to highest. For example, I'll say if you had a 0, you're going to get an F. And you're going to continue to get an F until you get to 65. Then you get a D. At 70, you've then earned a C. At 85, you've earned a B. And at 92, you've earned an A. So I build the table from lowest to highest. And now we can do a VLOOKUP, equal VLOOKUP. Go find the score within this table. I'll still press F4. I want the second column. And at this point, I don't need to put false. And it turns out that true is the default, so I can just simply end the VLOOKUP here. And we'll see that that grade results in a C. Well, this is easy enough because 70 is found in the table. But for the grades that are not found in the table, for example, 87, what it gives me is the value just lower than 87 in the table. So it found the corresponding value for 85 and gave me a B. If this would have changed to an 84, then the next lower value would have been the one associated with 70 and a C. All right, one last example while we're talking about this. When we do a VLOOKUP, the item that we're getting has to be to the right of the key. What if the data is to the left of the key? So here I did a VLOOKUP to go grab this SKU. I looked through the table in L and M, and I asked for the second column. But if I need to get the price, it's to the left of the key. Boy, it would be really nice if Microsoft would add a VLOOKUP where I could ask for the -1 column as the third argument. But we can't do that. It turns out to solve this problem, we're going to use two functions that when I first looked at both functions, I said, well, that's completely useless. I'll never have an opportunity to use that. The first function is called the match function. Basically, we'll say we want the match of BR26-3 in this range. And what it'll do is it'll tell me what row number, the relative row number where it's found. So if I ask for the match of BR26-3, it would say that it is on the 6th row within the range. 6th row? When I first read about this in help, I couldn't imagine why I would ever need that. I've never had a manager call me up and say, hey, what row number is that on? And certainly never what relative row number it's on. So I initially said match, I'll never use that function. Then there's another function called index. The index. We could ask for the index of this range, and we could specify which row we wanted to grab. Or the index of this range and say which row and which column we wanted to grab. Well, that seemed like a really strange way. If I needed this cell, why would I ever specify the whole range and say that I wanted the 8th row, 2nd column? So again, I looked at index and said, I'll never ever use this. But it turns out the solution is to use both index and match. So we ask for the index of the price column. Which row do I want? Well, I want the row where this item, BR26-3, is found within range L2 to L29. Which column do I want? The first column. So this is a very clever way to do basically a VLOOKUP left. Now, I'm sure a lot of you are saying, hey, wouldn't it have been easier to take the price column from column K and copy it over to column N and do a regular VLOOKUP? Absolutely. that would be easier, but sometimes we don't have control over this spreadsheet. This might be data that's built by IT for us. And of course, when we go back to IT and ask them to move the price column, that will take months before they can get to it. So, using index and match, basically, to do a VLOOKUP left. Well, I hope you found that helpful, and thanks for watching.
Looking to advance your career by acquiring new skills? Tired of expensive off-site training programs? Wish you could learn from the best instructors in the industry? Look no further than live lessons. Self-paced, personal video instruction by the world's leading technology publishers. Each live lesson comes with a DVD featuring 3 to 4 hours of instructor-led classroom training, sample program code that allows you to work along with your personal instructor, and an example-rich study guide. Live lessons allow you to watch the entire course from start to finish, or navigate directly to any of the individual lessons. You'll literally watch over the shoulder of your instructor as he shows you how to build state-of-the-art applications. Live lessons, the power of the world's leading technology experts at your fingertips. To learn more, visit mylivelessons.com today.